am a minority who grew up in an all-white community. So, first we're going to start with the definition of minority, and that is any group of people who, because of their physical or cultural characteristics, are singled out from others in the society in which they live for differential and unequal treatment, and who therefore regard themselves as objects of collective discrimination. With that being said, I've experienced many things being a minority. So the one thing I would like to touch upon first is the N-word. So a lot of my friends are white, and as I said, my whole community is pretty much predominantly white. So they think that like they can say the N-word because it's in a song, because it's not being used in a derogatory way. But if they knew the exact history behind it, I feel as if it would be it wouldn't be used at all. So I came across an article, and the author writes, if you truly knew what the N-word meant to our ancestors, you'd never use it. It was used and still can be used to make us hate ourselves. So basically the article just talks about the history of the word. So how white people had power over black people and used them as slaves, and that's how they referred to them when they were doing something. So it was always a derogatory, used in a derogatory way in the past. I also came across another article on the use of the N-word, and Ta-Nehisi Coates argues that white people can't seem to accept this because of white privilege. He asserts that white people have been raised in a society whose laws and culture communicates that everything belongs to them. With this reasoning comes the concept that some people feel they are entitled to use the N-word, even though it isn't inappropriate. He also states that for white people, I think the experience of being a hip-hop fan and not being able to use the word nigga will be very insightful. This will just give you a little peek into the world of what it means to be black, and because to be black is to walk through the world and watch people doing things that you cannot do. Another thing that minorities experience is microaggressions, and according to Gerald W. Sue, who's written 2 books on microaggression, defines the term as the everyday slights, indignities, put-downs, and insults that people of color, women, LGBT populations, or those who are marginalized experience in their day-to-day interactions. So some examples of microaggressions is that, like, for black people at least, or me, like when I go to look band-aids, I don't necessarily have one the color of my skin. The term nude isn't really is usually like brown. Another example is that people don't realize is sometimes at night, like when you're a white woman and you see a black man across the street, they'll clench their purse or like get scared. One specifically related to me is that I hear pretty often is, you're the whitest black person I know. And people may not intend for that to be rude or racist, but like it still is. Because of lack of education, there's a lack of understanding, which is why people say microaggressions and think that stereotypes are true without meaning to be racist. So to help with a lack of understanding and education, all students would have to do is take classes on ethnic studies and races. So some of the benefits of that would be it helps prevent these microaggressions and stereotypes. In an article, it says that culturally relevant pedagogy embeds several features of interventions designed to reduce stereotype threat, such as explaining stereotypes and identifying external forces that contribute to academics. So another benefit is that it increases grades, actually. So there was a study done on high school students in San Francisco, and actually the average GPA increased by 1.4 when they required the students to take one course. So the researchers even said the results are highly encouraging. This is the first casual, credible evidence on the academic effects of culturally relevant pedagogy. just basically ethnic studies. And one of the last benefits is that it teaches white people to not only learn about race and the history behind race and ethnics, but it also shows them that they can be activists for racial justice as well. One of the articles, Charles and Brooks talks about how culturally relevant lessons allow white children to not only learn about people of color, but also white people's roles as oppressors and activists fighting for racial change. This is very important because often whites feel there is nothing they can do to change racism, which is not true. They can do a lot. So it also helps you get more knowledge on what to do, how you can do it, and stuff like that. So there is a lack of education on ethnic studies and race, but studies have shown that when you take it, there are benefits. So that is why high schools and colleges should require students to take ethnic studies racial classes, because it's really only benefiting you and others around you.